Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Zone Star State podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Ishmael Johnson. And Ish, today, after about a month and some change of basketball, where we have talked about all the games, all of the players, and everything like that throughout the state, I wanted to break it up a little bit and do kind of a little mini first quarter awards
Okay,
segment.
I like it.
That's kind of what we're gonna do here. We're gonna go men's and women's. I have first team, second team, and then I called it an underrated team. So
Mhm.
kind of just my personal favorite players.
Yeah.
So we'll go through men's and women's, and we'll discuss all of them. Discuss the players, teams, and all that stuff. So that's kind of the layout. We're finishing up football season now. Obviously, it's bowl season, and then high school football, state semis, and
Yep.
whatnot. So once that ends, then I feel like we'll have an even better handle because then conference play will have started at that point too.
Right. Exactly.
So that's kind of what we're doing here. We start with the men's, and this was really, I don't want to say challenging, but this was really interesting because I think Houston, Baylor, the big four: Houston, Texas, Baylor, Texas Tech, well,
Yeah.
A&M as well. You throw them in there. Um, they've been good, but we don't have like a dominant figure. I'm not sure. Like Houston's lost a few now.
Mhm.
We've questioned about them. We've talked about them. Texas maybe has a little bit of a ceiling. Baylor and Texas Tech have been good, not great. Just in general, do you think this is has this gone about the way you've thought for men's basketball this year?
It's definitely a little bit. So far, it's definitely a little bit of a letdown as far as the top's concerned. I don't know if I anticipated Houston losing 3 already. I definitely didn't anticipate Baylor losing. Not necessarily losing those 3 games because I think they're Gonzaga, who was it,
Yeah.
UConn and Tennessee, right? Was it Tennessee? Yeah, Tennessee. So I didn't. Those are games that I wouldn't be surprised if they lost, but a lot of their performances in those games, I'm surprised by, especially obviously the Gonzaga one, for the most part, the UConn one, and Tennessee, of course, they just got stomped. So it's the performances in those games, and then the ones I'll say A&M, I'm pleasantly okay with still, and Texas, I'm kind of teetering on being a little worried about them. Where I started as a little bit optimistic.
So with that being said, we'll start with the first team, Texas. So I just did 5 players
Yeah.
each. On the second team, actually, I do have 6, but because I just figured something out. But
Mhm.
I realized I forgot somebody.
Oh,
But first team, let's see if I can do this. Put this up here. If not, there's too many words. Oh, it kind of works. All right. LJ Cryer from Houston, Trey Johnson, Texas, Lamar Wilkerson, Sam Houston State, Norshad Omer, Baylor, and JT Toppin, Texas Tech. Also have the stats listed up there, kind of. It's a little clunky, but you get the picture.
Mhm.
And Ish is going into this blind. I
Yeah,
made
yeah.
this.
He did not show me
This
these
is
beforehand. Yeah.
this is for Ish to react and us to discuss / debate. What are your thoughts on the first team here? I will say for Lamar Wilkerson, I think he's hitting almost 4 threes a game at a really high efficiency. And Sam Houston State to this point is looking like one of the better teams in its conference this year in Conference USA. Like they should be able to compete. So Lamar Wilkerson is the one smaller school player on this list, and then you have Cryer, Johnson, Baylor,
Yeah.
Omer, and Toppin.
Right. I'm not. I don't think I dislike any of that. My one. I'm very curious about, and maybe it's just maybe I think I might just be overthinking it. Um, are we sure that LJ Cryer has been Houston's best player?
So so who do you think's been their best player?
I don't think it's wrong. I think it's a discussion of between him, Emmanuel, Sharp.
I will say Juwan's been kind of disappointing this year.
Juwan's been very disappointing to me as well.
He's at what, 9 points, and I think like
Something like that. And I don't know if that's maybe him and Shed just had that connection that they were able to, that him and Milos Uzan maybe don't have, that, or even Cryer, because Cryer's not that type of player. Excuse me. But yeah, so I would say like I don't know if LJ Cryer has been the best player, but I also can't say like Sharp has for sure been better. I think he's more of like in that tier with Sharp, and I'm trying to think if there's somebody else in there, but I feel like
That's
Sharp,
it.
it might just be a 1-2 with him and Sharp.
That's what we've talked about with Houston is that it's like Uzan is not giving you a ton.
Yeah.
Roberts down to 8 points per game. I mean, that is very 49% from
Yeah.
the field. Like this is
I will say
his
Uzan, I
worst
mean,
game.
again, he's not the scorer. He's averaging 5 assists, which is a lot for an average
For
5
Cryer?
assists to only Milos Uzan for
Uzan, yeah.
to only 1.5 turnovers. So like the offense looks like it basically goes entirely through him right now as far as like setting
Yes.
things up.
Yeah, so, but I still think Cryer 42% from 3 has been
Yeah.
really efficient from the field, and they need his scoring, and you'll see once we get to the second team, I really don't think there's anybody to put over him
Yeah.
clearly.
Right now, to your point, Roberts is up in minutes, playing the most minutes he's ever had, and he's averaging the least amount of points since 2021, 2022.
Weird.
Yeah, it's not
They
great.
haven't had like we've talked about, the interior production for Houston has just been so, and not just with him, but, even their guards, penetrating in that way, like they
And also,
haven't been able to get those paint
his
points.
shooting is down. He's shooting the worst of his. He's never shot below 50%. He's 49 right now from the field.
Yeah, Roberts is, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, then everyone else, Trey Johnson, I think is obvious here
Yep.
because he has just
Toppin's
been,
obvious.
and even if you don't, Johnson isn't the most like well-rounded player ever, he's still just they need him. They need him to score points, and that's what he does on awesome efficiency. Wilkerson, we talked about. I think Omir's Baylor's best player, in my opinion. And I think he continues to prove that. So
Definitely the
15.5
most
points.
consistent player.
Yeah, definitely most consistent. And then Toppin is a no-brainer as well there for me. So that's the first team for the men's side. The second team is where it gets interesting, and this is where I realized that as I was doing this, I wrote down Wade Taylor's name, but then I was like, let me just keep looking because it's a process to go through all the teams we have and make sure you don't miss anybody. Then I forgot to put Wade Taylor back on the second team. So I have 6 players right now.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I'm going to include him in here, but Lamar's Alexis Marmolejos would probably be on my honorable mentions now. But I'm going to leave him in here for where is this? Okay. All right, we have, I'm going to have to get rid of the stats. Boopy Miller for SMU, Wade Taylor, Texas A&M, Primo Spears, UTSA, Trey Broadnax, Rice. I'll put the stats up here in a second. Gary Clark from A&M Corpus Christi, and then Alexis Marmolejos from Lamar, who would, I guess, technically be honorable mention now, but still throw him in here. Trey Broadnax from Rice. I'll start with him real quick.
Yeah.
14.5 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. That stat line alone, and when I watched them play, he is really very impactful on their offense. So I was like, I kind of just feel like he has to be on this team in this group here. You have the no-brainers to me on this second team. Boopy Miller for SMU, 15 points, 5.5 assists. Wade Taylor.
And to clarify, this is picking somebody from each team, right? Like this isn't like loading up on like, you didn't want to load up on Tech or Texas or Baylor or things like that.
So Tech, I think, has some arguments for Chance.
I was about to say, because Chance McMillan's
that he's scoring the ball.
Right. That's the big one as far as like a team that could have more than one potentially.
Yeah, I was wondering to see if there was anybody else here that stood out to you.
I think for me right now, Chance McMillan is the big one.
McMillan, Arthur Kaluma is the other one.
Yeah.
So Arthur Kaluma is my first honorable mention here.
Okay.
I have him. Also McMillan in here, but McMillan, Kaluma, Atten Wright from UNT. I don't have UNT on first, second team, so he's my honorable mention, and then Caden Gums, honorable mention.
Yeah.
That would be like if I had a third team, that would be my third team.
Sure.
Which is a damn good third team.
I was about to say,
that's not bad. Boopy Miller was a lock to me. I think he's been the best player for SMU. He's been stepped up this year Way Taylor, 16 points, 4.5 assists, has to be on here. Primo Spears has to be on here, 23 points, 43% from the field. And I think there is an argument for Spears, maybe first team if UTSA has a strong, rest of the season.
Yeah.
But
I think somebody who's also, he's more honorable mention, but I think Henry Coleman.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's definitely been a lot of, again, we talk about A&M size. He's definitely been their only option as far as like consistent size is concerned. They put a lot on his shoulders. Again, I think he's I think he's fairly solid as that honorable mention. I don't think he's pushing into the first or second team, but
Yeah.
I think he's about that like rotations, fringe, honorable mention type of player.
And then you get to Broadnax
Yeah.
and Gary Clark from Rice and A&M Corpus Christi. Gary Clark, we've talked about before on this podcast. Really the hub for what A&M Corpus Christi does.
Yeah.
And they're the second best team in the Southland, like them and Lamar. But even then, A&M Corpus Christi's up to 170 in KenPom, just beat Stephen F. Austin, lost to Lamar by 4. So you'll have that battle in the Southland.
Sure.
But Gary Clark to me is pretty. I mean, 14.5 points, 6 rebounds, 61% from the field. Like that's a all Texas team player.
Sure.
And then Marmolejo's from Lamar, who there's a few Lamar players you
Ooh,
could
I
put
just
in.
realized the player we have not mentioned yet.
Who?
Darian Williams. That is again, it's weird because like I think that shows how many players have stood out to us for Texas Tech in particular.
Yeah.
But like, let me see. I'm trying to bring up. So right now he leads Tech in offensive rating, and he's second in possession percentage, and he's averaging 16 points a game as well. That did not cross my mind.
Does it matter at all that Texas Tech hasn't played a tough schedule to you?
Sure, I think that's fair to consider.
Played one top 100 team.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think that's definitely fair to consider.
Like their stats just feel like when you watch them play, I just feel like, and then you look at their season stats.
Yeah,
I'm just like, this feels inflated.
Yeah,
and maybe that's unfair. Like you Texas Tech fans can hate me, sure, I don't care, but like it feels kind of just inflated at this point. They're gonna have a good offense, of course they are. But like they've scored, 98 Pine Bluff, 96 Wyoming, 94 Cookman, 86 Northwestern. Then they played St. Joe's, Syracuse, and A&M and didn't break 80. Right. Or DePaul too, didn't break 80.
And I guess that's kind of the debate of like, they lost to the top two teams that they've played, right? A&M and St. Joe's. But that's also all we have to gauge them on right now until they play Big 12 play. Because again, they really did, I think purposefully, because I don't know if Grant really knew the type of team he'd be working with. And so like he knew he couldn't go out and schedule, what was their schedule last year? They had Villanova, Michigan, Butler, even UTA as far as like a quote unquote bad mid-major or whatever. That was the caliber they were still working with. So he probably couldn't bet on doing that because he probably didn't know the talent level or the gelling at least right now. So I can definitely hear an argument of like, yeah, it's probably not the strongest schedule, so we need to pump the brakes a little bit. But I just noticed Darian Williams.
No, yeah, for sure. I looked at those stats and I was like, they definitely scored a lot. But then I look at like a Gary Clark, who is like the hub for Corpus Christi, like a Primo Spears for UTSA. If you want to put them over Broadnax for Rice, all right. But I think Rice kind of has been good because of Broadnax in a lot of ways. So that is a good group. Let's throw them in the honorable mentions too. Here's our honorable mention: Arthur Kaluma, Atten Wright, Caden Gums, Chance McMillan, Darian Williams.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that a lot. Like I said, Kaluma's the one that I felt bad not putting on here because he's been really freaking. He's been
like his
efficiency is really high too. He's like
outside of Trey Johnson, he's been a distant second as far as like their other most important player.
Yeah. So that is the one, and then give North Texas a little bit of love there. Atten Wright. I never know exactly how to say it. And then I have a fun one. The underrated team.
Okay.
This is just my favorite players in the state, and there's 6 of them on the men's side. And I'll just share my screen here since we've already gone through all the other ones. All right. We have Rob Wright for Baylor. We have Colton Benson, Texas State. Caden Powell, Rice. Brennan Laurent, North Texas. JoJo Tugler, Houston. And Adam Hamilton, Lamar. These are all really, like, some of them are specialists.
Yeah.
But, I mean, these guys are – Rob Wright's been incredible for Baylor this year. Like, flat out. Just he's been better than Roach at times, if not, like, on the year.
Sure.
12.5 points, 4.5 assists. Colton Benson, 6.5 threes a game, 46.2%.
Last year when they brought him in, this is what I was expecting.
Yes.
Right. He knew he was a shooter at Army, and I was really hoping that he'd come in and battled some injury as well. But he's finally coming in and easing into his own.
Yeah, I think it was the Rice game.
Yeah.
I don't know his stats off the top, but I mean, I just remember watching him and like, oh,
See.
he's hitting.
He was 3 of 7 from 3, 4 of 8 from the floor. So yeah, he's
you watch me like, okay, that's a shooter. So that was fun. Caden Powell is a guy who I drafted on my fantasy team, not knowing anything about him except that he was pretty good at Wyoming, and now he is pretty damn good at Rice. 10 points, 8 boards, 1.3 blocks on 63% shooting. Brennan Laurent for North Texas has been one of the biggest, not a surprise, but he's exceeded my expectations. Like if you go to North Texas on Kimpom, which I'll do right now, his usage is way higher than what you think it would be. Yeah, he's up to like 25% usage percentage on North Texas, which is just behind Jasper Floyd and Jonathan Massey. Like he has a pretty big responsibility on this team, and I've been impressed with him. And he's also 6.5 block percentage, which is 116th in the nation. So I really like
one player he's not there yet as far as like all underrated team, but somebody who I think I'm kind of excited to see is somebody else on Mercy Miller so far.
Yeah.
He hasn't played as much recently, but he started out like I think it was when Milos was kind of coming back too. He was playing around 15, 20 minutes a game. He's down to about 5 to 10 now, but that's something to watch because like if that's a big thing to have. I mentioned how much is going through Milos Uzan as far as the playmaking goes. If they can have somebody off the bench that kind of keeps things going when it gets to January, February, like that's something that could be pretty special. So he showed a lot early. And I think Kelvin Sampson's doing a smart thing, kind of loosening or kind of tightening the reins a little bit, bringing him in. So, but right now, it's something to watch.
Yeah, that's a good call. JoJo Tugler from Houston. I've seen like NBA draft Twitter talk about him.
Yeah.
Like highly regarded because he's been so freaking good. He's been their best big this season. Like he's been better than Javier Francis. He's been better than Juwan Roberts.
He has.
If you look at his percentages, like you see the stats right there, 6 points, 6 boards, 2.2 blocks. They don't like jump out.
Right.
But you look at the percentages, like the effectiveness, and he's 5th in the country in block percentage. He's 24th in the country in offensive rebound percentage. Like he's everywhere.
Yeah.
He's just everywhere. An ultimate Houston player. So I hope he doesn't go to the draft. I hope we get him for one more year. But man, he's incredible.
Yeah.
And then Adam Hamilton's kind of a similar build to Tugler. 9.3 points, 6.4 boards, 1.3 blocks. I remember he's also, I think, was on my fantasy draft team.
One more player to watch. I saw a good tweet from Ethan Plinsky, who does the 247 for the UNT for 247.
Yeah.
Brennan Laurent already. Like I think he had 20 points against High Point or something like that.
Yeah.
He had a good tweet. Let's see. In just 9 games this season, North Texas junior Brennan Laurent has already more points, 89, than he did in his first 52 games at FAU, 84. So like again, those FAU teams were pretty stacked, but like the fact that they're able to count on him are kind of a bit like so far this season, like that's something to watch as well.
Yeah. All right, let's just go right over to the women's side, and I'll just keep it on the share screen because why
Let's
not?
go.
Because there's so many numbers here. Madison Booker, this first team. Madison Booker, first team. Haley Van Lith, second team. Jordan Jenkins, all first team. Madison Booker, Haley Van Lith, Jordan Jenkins, Dariana Little, Paige Bucks, and Sedona Prince. Did you know Dariana Little Page Bugs was having the year that she's having right
I
now?
did not know it was a double-double
Because
range.
they
I knew
haven't
she was
played.
scoring more. I didn't know it was double-double range.
Bro, she's going crazy right now.
They need that too, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. We watched a lot of Baylor early in the year,
Yeah.
but I think in the past few weeks we haven't. I
Yeah.
don't think they haven't really played anybody um since they had the tournament, what was that, the Bahamas or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So since then, yeah, Little Page Bugs just keeps filling it up. That was the most surprising thing when looking at these teams was, yeah, she's been incredible. She's the best player on Baylor right now.
Mhm.
So I mean, Von Lay is right behind. I think she's at 14 points per
Yeah.
game. So they've definitely figured something out inside, which is very refreshing. Anything from the first team that stands out?
Um, nothing that really nothing really, honestly, no debate really. I think it's pretty solid. I don't see anybody in the second team where I'm like, yeah, no, I don't see, because like even taking the South Carolina game into consideration, like that's one team for Sedona Prince that held her
Yeah.
down, and she, every other team she played, Notre Dame, NC State dominated. And same with Haley Van Lith. So like I don't think that game should take away from those two. And I don't particularly see anybody on the second team that I would be like,
Yeah.
no, they need to be moved up a little bit.
Yeah. I think these five are comfortably the
Yeah.
best five.
I mean, honestly, this may like I could take this into, like, if you could fast forward this to March, this could be our first team all Texas in March.
Yes. Yes. I will say the one thing, Haley Van Lith, we talked about it before. I'll say it
Mhm.
again. She has an ultimate green light.
Yeah.
And I would like to see her be a little bit more efficient.
Sure.
I'm not sure how high the ceiling is for efficiency because she takes a lot of those like mid-range jumpers and stuff.
Mhm.
But she was a good shooter at LSU at times,
Yeah.
and I feel like off the catch she could do more. But without Maddie Scher this year, she might just have to be taking a bunch of shots off the dribble for this team.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, I do wonder, like, that's something I would love to, like, talk to a shooter about.
Mhm.
Like, the difference between, like, your comfortability off ball versus off the catch, right?
You off the
The
dribble and off the
Off
catch?
the dribble, off
Yeah.
the catch, yeah. Because obviously it looks that Haley Van Lith's more comfortable off the dribble, right?
Yeah.
Versus last year where it was a lot of kick out and it was a lot of, setting her up in the corner, so whatever it was on the wing. But I would love to actually get into, like, the psyche of, because like we've seen it before with Jocelyn Moore, right? Where it's
Mhm.
like if you have the ball in your hands all the time at UIW, it's different from when you're kind of spotting up. I'm thinking of SMU. I forgot his name. Played next
Uh,
to Kendrick Davis.
Kendrick Zorich Phelps
No, the one that came from Sam Houston. Do you
oh,
remember him?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm trying to
I
remember
had
his
a
name
whole
now.
award named after him
Yeah, we literally had, like, oh my god, I can't remember. I'm gonna look
because
it up.
he struggled so much.
Yeah, I'm
No
gonna
shade
forget
to
his
him.
name. But anyway,
I
where
got
it's
it. Let
like
me get
the
it.
ball's in your hand a lot, like Zach Nuttall. Zach Nuttall.
Zach Nuttall, thank you.
Um, the ball's in your hand a lot, so all of a sudden, yeah, you're setting up your shot differently, right? You're getting your shot differently, and there may be some people who just are better at that than they are of, like, standing and waiting for the ball to, somebody's not hitting you
Yeah.
in the pocket right enough so you don't get a feel for the ball well enough. I don't know, but Haley Van Lith seems to be like the new person that we're noticing, like, just shoots better off the dribble.
I will make y'all a promise. I will send an email to TCU's SID and try to get Haley Van Lith on the
Yes, I was about to say we will try to get them. We will try
I
to get her
will.
on.
Yes, we will do that. So yeah, Van Lith, Jenkins, no brainer.
Yeah.
I combine. I have stocks right here, 3.2
Mhm.
stocks because it's like 1.7 steals and 1.5 blocks, and I'll just put them together. It's really impressive.
Yeah.
Prince, awesome. Madison Booker has probably been the best. Her and Prince been the
Yeah.
best players in Texas.
Yeah. I'd agree
Bro,
with
she's
that.
shooting 59% from three, which I don't know if people talk. I remember hearing it on a broadcast, and I was like, is that really true? And it
Yeah.
was like, oh yeah, it is. And again, Texas hasn't played the hardest schedule.
Sure.
They've played like a really weak schedule, but Madison Booker is phenomenal. And the debate now becomes like, who's the second best player on that team?
Mhm.
Like, I don't have another Texas player on this list.
Right.
Taylor Jones has put up some points. Aaliyah Moore, like they're Rory Harmon is still averaging 10. I don't know exactly what the pecking order is. I need to see more games against good teams,
Sure.
but
Sure.
Madison Booker's been incredible. The second team is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Sabria Dean, Lamar, Yvonne Tensai from UTEP, we'll talk about. Paige Allen, A&M Corpus Christi, Tamisha Lampkin, North Texas, and Akasha Davis, Lamar. I think these were like pretty clearly the five, and then honorable mention, Nia Robertson, SMU, Peyton Hole, ACU.
Mm-hmm.
Robertson is averaging like 23 points per game.
Yeah, she's been going off.
She's just shooting like 35%.
Right.
And I personally just can't really do that. Like, it's the same thing with Peyton Hole. She's averaging 18, I think, and also on like sub 40% around there.
Right.
As me, I just value efficiency a little bit too much in my head. But still, they've had great years. But I think this five is pretty solidified. Lamar with Dean and Davis, we've known it. The thing about Sabria Dean this year
Mm-hmm.
is she's shooting threes.
Yeah.
Last year, she did not feel comfortable shooting threes. She's shooting like 3 or 4 a game on 39%. That is massive. And I think it was the Texas? Did they play Texas A&M? Am I thinking of a different team?
Yeah. I think it's UTSA versus Texas A&M. Did they
No,
play?
I'm thinking of Lamar against one of the Lamar games I've watched,
Did they
whatever
play?
one it was.
I'm trying to
She
think.
was
Yeah, they played somebody big. You're right.
she was pulling from 3 and hitting. She hit
Yeah.
like 3 or 4 threes in one of those games. I'm like, okay, this is an evolution. And a lot of times when you see these seniors and stuff like it's hard for them to take that step forward, especially when it comes to shooting.
Mm-hmm.
And she's done it. So shout out to Sabria Dean, Akasha Davis.
Oh, SMU. They played SMU in
Yes,
Texas.
that
And
was the
SMU
game.
was the one she shot more threes.
Yeah, she was incredible.
Yeah.
Akasha Davis is awesome. Tamisha Lampkin, North Texas, not a surprise. 16
Mm-hmm.
points, 9 boards, 57%. Paige Allen, 11 and 10.
Yeah.
I mean, she's 3 steals. But Yvonne Tensai, anything before we get to Tensai?
I was trying to think of like one team that's kind of been up and down, at least right now. So
I didn't
far,
I didn't put any Texas A&M or Houston players in here.
yeah,
Sorry, guys.
I ain't fighting for them. I was gonna throw a bone out to Rice, but they've been a little up and down, right?
I looked at the two. Dom Ennis has been
It would be
good.
Dominic Ennis or I mean, Malia Fisher's been hurt, so like I
She's
don't
been
know.
hurt.
Haley Adams though, I'd probably say 9 and 9.
She's on my underrated team.
Yeah, so that's potentially there. But Dom Ennis will probably be the one.
What was the other one?
For them.
Oh, Texas Tech, Jasmine Shavers should be on this honorable mention list as well.
Okay. Yeah. That's
points,
good.
I believe she's at leading the team.
And the funny thing with UTSA is I think they have 2 players that maybe could be in Sydney Love and Nina DeLeon Negron.
Yeah.
They're both kind of doing a really good job of manning the kind of dual point guard position. So obviously Jordan Jenkins first team, no problem. But like, I feel like if you could like combine and just say like UTSA's point guards, like they kind of make up what would be like the second player, right?
Yeah. Then you get to Yvonne Tensai, and
yeah, you sent me. You made me aware of Tensai last night.
Brother. 17 points per game, 48.3% from 3 on 8.6 attempts.
Let her cook.
She leads the country in 3-pointers made per game at over 4. Look, we haven't talked or watched a lot of UTEP. That's one of the teams that we haven't hit on, which I think we'll need to moving forward, men's and women's.
Yeah. I was about to say men's almost beat Louisville last night.
Men's almost beat Louisville, so we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But I got a video.
Her shot selection is so awesome,
bro.
It's so confident.
I want to make sure this is big enough so y'all can see this, but like just step back, just pull.
And those are her shots. Like it's that type of shot where it's like, look at that. Boom, right there. Like that's all she needed. Like that little window is like her bread and butter shot. And I love it.
I mean, man, she is incredible to watch. She has every bit as good as the stats say. And I mean, the volume is unreal. And she did against, I sent you the BYU game. And she hit like 5 threes in the first half against BYU. And I'm just here like, this is incredible. And the funny thing was, I was thinking to myself, okay, she wasn't on our radar. Why was she not on our radar going into the year?
Yeah.
And you look it up, she was on UTEP's team last year. She averaged like 6 points.
Yeah.
She was on the team and she just didn't play much, and she wasn't like a huge factor.
Yeah.
2 years ago, she was at Penn State. She also played, but she wasn't like a huge factor. Last year, 5.5 points, 19 minutes per game, shot 36% from three. Pedestrian numbers. So she was not on our radar. Then she goes out, and I don't know what she did over the offseason, but I need that workout plan. And she is now like the best shooter in the country.
It's wild, and she's making UTEP appointment television now.
Make UTEP fun again.
Yeah.
Here we are. Because the past couple years they've been really, really a pain to watch. I'll say
Right.
they have not been the most fun team
It's yeah,
since
exactly.
you go back. What was that? 2-3 years ago, where they had like that team that we actually like liked,
Gallego's
and then
at
they
point
all
guard.
dispersed
Yeah.
and so on. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they only lost UTEP, only lost to UTSA by 5. They beat
Yep.
Corpus Christi, only lost to BYU by 13. Like they're putting it together.
They're putting it together, and they're very fun, so I'm very excited to potentially see what this could turn into.
Yes. So shout out to Yvonne Tinsai.
Yeah.
Awesome player. I got to talk to some LSU people and get her over here.
Tampering over here, man.
That's what I'm about to do. Strike the record. Don't delete this. But she ends up at LSU. It's like, she's only 5'7", so I don't know how that would work at
Right.
level, but hey, we'll figure it out. A&M needs to go get her. That's what they need to do. Underrated team.
Yeah.
This was fun. Taylor Bigby from TCU, 9 points, 50%, 43.5% from three. She hasn't been the third best. Madison Connor's been the third best player, but Bigby really has. Every time you watch TCU, it's like, oh, this is a good player here.
Yeah.
Addie Blaylock, it's kind of like Tensai on like, scaled down, 5 threes a game, 40%, shoots the heck out the ball.
Yeah.
Kyla Deck, UNT, 13. I don't know if she's underrated.
Yeah.
That feels like cheating, but I wanted to mention her because she's really good. 13 points, 2 steals, 38% from three. Charlotte O'Keefe, our girl that Ish drafted in the last pick of his fantasy draft. She's 9.5 points, 10
She's
rebounds.
turning into Nikola Jokic right now of that team.
Yeah.
Was drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. What was it?
That is Charlotte O'Keefe. And then Haley Adams from Rice.
That's a good one.
Been my favorite player to watch. 9 points, 9 boards, 2.5 assists, 55% from the field. She is, and you can go back. I don't remember which podcast it was when I pulled up a clip of her blocking a shot or blocking 2 shots and then going down and getting a fast break layup. It's like she is like with Malia Fisher out, especially, she has so much to do on both sides of the court, and she's been incredible. So, and she's not the biggest. I think she's only 6'6".
Yeah.
But like it wouldn't surprise me at all if she ends up, putting up in conference, let's just say like 11 and 10 and 3, like that could be a second team all conference mention or honorable mention or something like that. Like she's been that good for this team. What do you think about this underrated team?
I think I like it. I think one name I think we maybe should add. I don't know if it's
Go ahead. I got space.
Shea Holly.
Okay, yeah.
I think Shea Holly, her shooting is down, but she's playing less minutes, obviously, than she did last year because of, they're healthier, so they don't need her to play that long. And she's averaging the same amount of points, providing the same amount of defense. I think that having her out there, I think, is very, very, very interesting. The fact that she's doing a lot more in less minutes, I think, is very interesting. So I'll probably have her up there because there's a reason why that after all these years that Vic Schaefer has just stuck with her.
Yeah.
Because a couple of years ago, we're probably like, oh, Shea Holly, you probably put her on the fringe of the team. And like, well, she's starting now on that. So,
yeah. And it helps she played her best against Notre Dame. Like she played her best against their best competition, 4 of 8 from 3 in that game. So I have no problem with that. Texas is going to be very good again.
Right.
And Yeah. Anything else here? Yeah, like I said, Nia Robertson, Peyton Hole, Jasmine Shavers all deserve honorable mention credit. There's probably somebody else out there that I'm forgetting. Maybe I looked through SFA's. No. Corpus Christi. I mean, Aguado for Corpus Christi could be on this honorable mention list. She's very good. Yeah, I think that's everybody. UTRGV's leading scorer, O'Keefe is second in scoring. I don't remember the name of their leading scorer, but I think she's at like 14 a game. I think that's everybody. I might be forgetting somebody. Von Lay probably should be on this honorable mention.
That's a good one.
Aaronette Von Lay.
I mean, I mentioned I have Holly over her, but Kyla Oldecker as well. She's been a very underrated pickup, I think, that we didn't really talk that much about in the offseason.
Yep.
For Texas, but I'd pick Holly over her as far as underrated is concerned.
Yeah. All right, there it is.
Sweet.
There's our first quarter season awards.
I like it.
That was fun.
Yeah,
that was good. And now we can reset, get to Monday, and get back talking about some basketball. But this was a good look at how the state's doing overall and some of the top players in there. No, like you said with the women's, like it's no real surprises here. I don't think on either side.
I think everybody's lived up to / surpassed expectations. No real like massive disappointment. Like A&M, obviously Houston are bad, but like I don't think we're too shocked about that.
No. A&M, we didn't have anybody on that. I mean, besides maybe Aisha Coulibaly, who's still been like their best player.
She's trying, man. She's trying.
She's doing her best out there.
She's struggling.
But yeah, SMU women have a couple. Like I like their top group. I'm just interested to see in the ACC if how it holds up. Shantae Embry is a good player. And then I'm forgetting the name. Patterson, I believe it is, maybe.
Okay.
Who was averaging around 11 rebounds per game for them too. So, all right. I'm gonna go send the email to TCU SID and see if we can get Haley Van Lith on the podcast.
Let's do it.
What are the odds she remembers me of the I probably asked her like 10 questions last year.
Right. See if they pick up on it.
Yeah, she's gonna be like, aren't you from LSU? She's not gonna remember anything. She don't care. But all right. Thank y'all for joining us. Leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be back on Monday to talk some more hoops. Yeah, leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening. Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. Follow us on Twitter, DCT Basketball. And yeah, we'll talk to y'all later.